when the strong woman breaks, finding light on the other side. Have you ever felt like you're drowning while everyone around you thinks you're walking on water? 3 years ago, a woman sat in her car outside her therapist's office, gripping the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles turned white. She couldn't bring herself to go inside, not because she didn't need help, she desperately did, but because walking through that door meant admitting something unthinkable, that she, the rock everyone leaned on, was crumbling. That woman was Marquita Stokes, whose extraordinary journey I had the privilege of exploring in a recent interview. Her story isn't just inspiring, it's revolutionary, especially for black women who've been conditioned to wear strength like armor, even when they're breaking inside. Marquita's courage in sharing her darkest moments has created ripples of healing across communities where mental health struggles are often hidden behind forced smiles and "I'm fine" responses. Her work has literally saved lives by giving others permission to seek help before reaching their breaking point. Today, I want to talk about what happens when the strong woman breaks and the unexpected gifts waiting on the other side of that breaking. We live in a culture obsessed with resilience. Stay strong, push through, never let them see you sweat. These mantras sound empowering, but they've created a dangerous myth that needing help is somehow a failure. It's as if we've confused being unbreakable with being human. The last time I checked, humans aren't made of titanium. We're made of flesh, blood, and emotions that sometimes overwhelm us. For high achieving women, especially black women, this pressure is amplified tenfold. You're expected to lead teams flawlessly, raise perfect children, support your community, look good doing it, and never ever admit when you're drowning. The term strong black woman isn't just a description, it's an expectation, a mandate, a prison disguised as a compliment. But what if I told you that your breaking point isn't your ending, it's your beginning? Marquita's story illuminates this truth with breathtaking clarity. Once the dependable problem solver in her family and career, she found herself ambushed by debilitating panic attacks that left her unable to function as a mother or professional. She couldn't leave her house, couldn't drive, couldn't breathe without feeling like the world was ending. The shame was suffocating. How could I, of all people, be falling apart like this? She wondered. In communities where mental health struggles are often stigmatized or dismissed, admitting vulnerability felt like betrayal of her culture, her faith, her identity as a strong black woman. But here's where her story takes an unexpected turn. When Marquita finally allowed herself to break, truly break, something miraculous happened. She discovered that vulnerability wasn't weakness, it was her pathway to power. I had to learn that my strength wasn't in never falling, she shared in our interview. It was in how I rose again. This revelation isn't unique to Marquita. Consider Marquita Carter, founder of Home Food Inc., after experiencing serious health complications following childbirth. She found herself battling both physical illness and emotional distress while trying to run a business. The old playbook would have told her to push through, to sacrifice her well being for success. Instead, she chose a different path. She embraced holistic healing practices, prioritized self care amid business pressures, and refused to ignore her personal needs. The result? Not only did her health improve, but her business thrived. She launched Blanket Pancakes and Syrup while becoming an advocate for wellness among Black women entrepreneurs. Her message echoes Marquita Stokes. Sometimes breaking down is the prerequisite for breaking through. This truth feels especially relevant in our current moment. We're living in an era where burnout isn't just common, it's practically expected, where hustle culture has convinced us that exhaustion is a badge of honor rather than a warning sign, where we celebrate people working themselves to the bone as if slowly destroying your health is somehow admirable. Spoiler alert, your body doesn't care about your hustle. Your nervous system doesn't understand that you're just pushing through until vacation. Your mind doesn't know you're supposed to be superhuman. But what if we've been reading the map upside down all along? What if our moments of greatest vulnerability, those times when we can't keep it together anymore, are actually doorways to our most authentic power? I'm not romanticizing suffering here. The dark nights of panic attacks, depression, or overwhelming anxiety aren't beautiful while you're in them. They're terrifying, they're isolating. They make you question everything you thought you knew about yourself. But they can also be transformative. When Marquita Stokes finally walked through that therapist's door, trembling, terrified, but determined, she was taking the first step toward a version of herself she couldn't yet imagine. A version that would eventually write on the other side, turning her pain into purpose by sharing her story so others might find hope sooner. Her journey illuminates three profound truths that I believe can change your life just as they changed hers. First, never give up, especially when you're at your lowest. The breakthrough you've been praying for might be waiting just beyond your darkest moment. Marquita describes sitting on her bathroom floor, unable to breathe through a panic attack, convinced she would never feel normal again. Yet today, she lives free from those attacks. The darkness wasn't permanent, it was passage. Second, it's okay to seek help. You don't have to suffer alone. For Marquita, turning to faith was pivotal. She leaned on God for guidance, but she also did something many in her community found surprising. She sought therapy despite initial reluctance. This dual approach, spiritual support alongside professional help, became her pathway to healing. And third, value the simple joys. Don't take life's little moments for granted. When panic attacks confined Marquita to her home, she suddenly realized how precious ordinary freedoms were. Driving to the store, taking her children to the park, enjoying a meal without fear. Now recovered, she cherishes these simple pleasures with newfound appreciation. These lessons resonate far beyond mental health struggles. They apply to career setbacks, relationship breakdowns, health crises, any situation where you find yourself facing what feels like insurmountable darkness. The Bet on Yourself Sis podcast featured Marquita sharing precisely this wisdom. She spoke candidly about how many Black women professionals encounter unique pressures, from being expected always to be strong problem solvers at work and home to feeling isolated when struggling mentally or emotionally. The episode emphasized normalizing conversations around mental wellness, including seeking therapy and setting healthy boundaries against burnout culture. By openly discussing topics such as anxiety and panic attacks while celebrating wins both big and small, the podcast built community where honesty and vulnerability are valued strengths. This is revolutionary work because for generations, vulnerability has been framed as weakness, especially for women, and doubly so for Black women. But what if vulnerability is actually our superpower? What if admitting we're not okay is the first step toward becoming more than okay? What if asking for help isn't weakness, but wisdom? I believe we're witnessing a profound shift in how we understand strength. True strength isn't about never breaking, it's about having the courage to put yourself back together, perhaps in an entirely new configuration. It's about recognizing that the cracks in our armor don't make us weaker. They let the light in. They let the light out too, allowing our authentic selves to shine through the carefully constructed facades we've built. This isn't just feel good philosophy, it's practical wisdom with real world implications. When we normalize vulnerability, we create space for authentic connection. When we acknowledge our struggles, we give others permission to acknowledge theirs. When we seek help, we demonstrate that healing is possible. And in a world where so many are suffering silently, these acts of courage ripple outward in ways we can't even imagine. So I stand here today with a challenge for each of you, a challenge that might feel uncomfortable, even frightening, but that has the power to transform not just your life, but the lives of those around you. I challenge you to break just a little on purpose, to let someone see behind the mask of perfection you've been wearing, to say out loud, I'm struggling, even if your voice shakes when you say it, to reach for help before you're drowning, not after, to redefine strength not as endurance of suffering, but as courage to heal. Because your breaking isn't your failure, it's your revolution. It's your declaration that you are human, that you have limits, and that acknowledging those limits isn't weakness, but the most profound kind of power. The world doesn't need more unbreakable people. It needs more people brave enough to break open, to let their light spill out, to show others that healing is possible. Will you be one of them? The journey begins with a single, terrifying, beautiful step. Maybe it's making that therapy appointment. Maybe it's having an honest conversation with someone you trust. Maybe it's simply admitting to yourself that you can't do it all alone anymore. Whatever that step looks like for you, I urge you to take it. Not tomorrow, not when things get worse, not when you've reached some arbitrary threshold of suffering that makes it okay to need help. Today, because on the other side of breaking is becoming, on the other side of vulnerability is connection, on the other side of asking for help is discovering that you were never meant to walk this path alone. And that realization might just be the most liberating breakthrough of all. Thank you